Hi guys, I'm glad you're all here. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to be pressure canning meatballs. These are all 1 tablespoon little meatballs that I used a little measuring cup for. There's my hamburger that I mixed in barbecue sauce, Worcestershire sauce, Italian seasoning, onion, and I got garlic here somewhere. Where did I put it? I misplaced it. I also put garlic sauce in there. And a little bit of oatmeals. So what I'm going to do is bake the meatballs. And they're only going to be in the oven until they start showing a little bit of oil coming out. The grease. And then I'm going to keep them warm. And then I'll can them. I used 1 jar to measure how many meatballs would fit into the jar, and it's 20. And I want to do 7 jars, and then I'm going to use hot water with beef bouillon to pressure can them for 90 minutes, and for my elevation, which would be 11 pounds. So there they are, waiting to go into the oven. Back in a minute. Alright, there they are. They're only in the oven for about 5 minutes. I'm going to let them cool a little bit and put them into a pan to keep warm until I get the other ones done. Only about 5 minutes in the oven and about 350 degrees. Alright, there's all the meatballs made up, cooked up. I'm going to have extra. I got the pressure canner warming up. I got the beef broth warming up. I got my jars. I gotta get those set up now. Alright, we're gonna put the meatballs in. Gotta be careful so they don't break. I don't want them to break. I want them to hold their shape. And they're warm. I kept them warm. Steaming up the jar a little bit because they're warm. And then the meatballs could be used in so many different meals. Not just spaghetti, but whatever else you can come up with. Different ideas. Let me put that one down. Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll count how many I'm fitting into a jar. I had figured 20. But they shrunk. Yeah, that's 20. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12. I think that's what I'm going to do, just do 12. Yeah, and when I originally measured it, I didn't use a measuring spoon to make the meatballs. I probably should have done that. So 32 meatballs in a quart jar, and we'll fill up the rest, and I'll be back in a minute. Alright, not quite 7 jars. I'm glad I made extra. Yeah, you can see it steaming up the jars because they are still warm. So we're going to put the beef broth in now. And, oops, forgot my little measuring cup. Yeah, you can make your meatballs with breadcrumbs also. You don't have to use oatmeal like I do. They'll probably expand being made with oatmeal. So I probably shouldn't put quite as much beef broth in there. I might take some out of that one. We'll see. I don't know. Trial and error, right? Okay, so there's 2. Alright, so now we're going to debubble them I'm going to do that very, very carefully because I don't want to break my meatballs. Yeah. Very carefully. Okay. I'm just below the top of the rim. Alright. Got my vinegar, my paper towel. We'll clean the rims. Put our rings and lid on, finger tight. And I'll do the rest of them. And I'll be back in a minute. Yeah, the one jar, I'm just going to save that for dinner tonight. I'll make some noodles and some sauce and yeah. So yeah, gonna debubble very carefully. Few bubbles coming up, not bad. I mean, they are loosely packed in there. Clean the rims with vinegar and a paper towel. And we'll put the lids on. So I didn't fill them all the way because I don't want to take the chance of them exploding on me. I had that happen when I made meatloaf and jarred it, canned it, put it in jars in the pressure canner when it was too full. So I learned not to fill them up too far. Alright. Alright. Put them in the pressure canner. I really wanted to do 7. But that's all right. With the price of meat, yeah, I'm canning as much as I can to beat inflation. All right, now we'll put the lid on. All right, got it locked in place. I'm going to turn up the heat and wait for it to start venting. Wait for these 2 safety locks to raise up, lock in place, and vent. Let it vent for 10 minutes. And then after I do that, I'll put the weight on top. This is a Presto pressure cooker. So if anyone was wondering, yeah, it's Presto. After it vents for 10 minutes, I'll put the weight on. Let it get up to 11 pounds. And then let it go for an hour and 30 minutes or 90 minutes, keeping an eye on the pressure gauge. For my elevation, which is under 2,000 foot level, it has to cook for 90 minutes at 11 pounds. Always make sure your vent is not plugged up after every use. So do that too. Alright, back in a few minutes. Alright, the safety valve came up. You can see it's steaming. Both of them are up. And I'll set the timer for 10 minutes. Alexa, set the timer for 10 minutes. And after the 10 minutes, I'll put the weight on. Back in a few minutes. Alright, my 10 minutes is up. I'm going to put the weight on here. And wait for it to come up to 11 pounds. And then I'll drop the temperature. Keep an eye on it. Make sure it stays at 11 pounds. There's 3 quarts of water inside the pressure canner. probably 2 tablespoons of vinegar so the jars don't get discolored from the water, whatever. And yeah, we'll be back in a minute. Alright, we're at 11 pounds. I'm going to set my timer for an hour and 30 minutes or 90 minutes, both the same. I'm going to turn down my heat. Alexa, set the timer for 90 minutes. See, it always rises up. It can go higher, but you can't go under the pounds per pressure for your elevation. And I'm going to have to keep an eye on this as it slowly adjusts. Yeah, don't go under. If you go under, if you catch it, and you know how many minutes, you have to add that many minutes to your cooking time. Alright, my hour and 30 minutes is up. We're going to turn it off and then wait for the 2 vents to drop before I remove the weight. After that drops, then if the gauge is down to 0, then I can remove it. I'll let it set for about 5 minutes before removing the lid. I didn't hear any pinging, so I'm sure everything is okay in there. No lids popped off. So we'll be back here after it, cools down. Alright, both safety valves are down and pressure is to 0, so I can remove the weight, and we'll wait 5 minutes to open up the canning jar. Always open the lid away from you so that the steam goes away from your face. See the steam?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going to wait another 5 minutes before I take the jars out. We're going to... Alright. Alright, and that's what they look like. Looks good. They're all bubbling. Looks like, yeah, the water's a little red from the meat. So, yeah, they probably boiled over a little bit too full. Alright, we'll wait and we'll take them out and check them out. Alright, there they are. They look like they all good. We're going to let them cool off. Make sure that the lids are sealed. We'll do that by tapping on them. It's too soon right now. They haven't pinged yet, as they say. But afterwards, make sure they're all sealed. And then tomorrow, we'll just let them set for tonight. Tomorrow, we'll remove the rings and then wash the jars in warm soapy water and label them and put them into a cool, dark, dry place. But it looks like they came out good. Yeah, at least 32 meatballs in each jar. And I used a 1 tablespoon measuring spoon. So I made sure all the meatballs were about the same size. But they are 1 tablespoon of meat. Yeah, they look nice. Alright, so, oh, one just pinged, didn't it? Hear that? Alright, here it is the next day. I just got done washing the jars, removing the rings. You always remove your rings. And I labeled them and now I'll put them away. But the reason you remove the rings is so if, for some reason, the seal is broke, you don't have what's called a false seal. And, yeah, then you won't know if the food's gone bad or whatever. There. And they all sealed. I heard them pinging last night as they were sitting here. So, anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Please thumbs up. That helps with the rating on YouTube. And please share and subscribe. Thank you very much for your support in doing that. And I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.